My brassicas are doing amazing and my spring garden is really coming to life. I know that you want to get your Zone 5 spring garden started off on the right foot, and I'm here to help. Here's how I'm planting mine. Hey folks, this is Casey and I am One Mellow Marigold, and I am standing underneath my apple trees, which are blooming for the first time in 2 years. And as excited as I am about these, I'm even more excited at how well my brassicas and my onions and my peas and everything else are doing so far. So let me show you. Let's start with onions first. I'll tell you what, this farm is a jungle right now. It has been raining for like 3 days now, pretty much non-stop. In fact, I've got like 4 hours right now before we're going to get our next round of rain to do a little bit more filming. But all that rain is super good for everything I've planted, so let's get to it. I'm standing right in front of my onion patch, and some of you already know that this year I decided to grow onions from seed instead of from sets. I'd never done it that way before, so I purchased some seeds, and I also had some saved seeds from the garden from last year. I followed along a 3-part series from Whole Fed Homestead, which was super helpful. Went back to it like a million times. Gave me a lot of confidence. First, I started by clearing the plot of weeds and amending the soil with both compost and eggshells. Now, of course, the weeds are already popping back through, but that's completely okay. We're gonna take care of that. I brought the onion seedlings out and I gave them one last little bitty trim. Gorgeous! Long, lovely, beautiful roots. I also have a bucket of water so that I could dunk the root ball into the dirt and to help wash away some of the dirt and make it easier to separate the seedlings. And then as I go, lightly separate, plant. For tools, I just have my measuring tape so that I could get them roughly 6 inches apart and, you know, I don't know, try to make at least a mediocre straight line. I've also got my handy dandy weeder, not to pull out weeds necessarily, but it really helps dig a nice long hole to nestle those nice long onion roots into. So I got to work with my first bunch. I laid the measuring tape out and I'm going hole to hole, roughly about every 6 inches, poking a hole and doing my best to nestle those onion seedlings down into it. Now I gotta say, these onion roots were not nearly as fragile as I thought they would have been. As I'm putting them into the ground over the course of the morning, I was really worried at first because they just seemed so small and so fragile. I really just didn't think that the seedlings were gonna tank in the way that they did. Obviously, I was very much wrong. Now, as everybody continues to grow in, I am going to address the weed situation by using clean straw. I've got an order of clean straw coming in about 2 weeks, and I really love that stuff. It really helps to make a nice, easy, light mulch to help keep some of the grasses and the weeds at bay, and to help retain a little moisture when it gets super dry in the hot months. I have got all of my seedlings planted. I know they're a little small and hard to see, but my seedlings only filled about 3/4. So I'm going to plant a couple of rows of sets, but it's going to be cool to see how the sets grow directly next to the seedlings. I have thoroughly, absolutely 100% enjoyed starting onions from seed this year. Great experiment. Can't wait to see how it works out. But oh my heart and bless my soul. Onion sets are the cutest things in the whole world. Look at, they're just like little baby onions, little tiny beep beep. It's like if you wanted onions for your dollhouse, this is what you'd use. The nice thing about scents is you just really have to wiggle it into the ground. Like you're just sticking the butt in there. So that's also easier from a planting perspective. Now, of course, everybody's doing great. They're doing far better than I would have given them credit for. As you can see, those cute little red onion sets are already starting to push out new growth. And down on this end, we have got onion sets standing up tall and straight and growing well. Now, I still have a ton of sets left to plant. If the seedlings end up really holding and they do well, which so far it seems like they're gonna, I am going to instead plant the rest of the onion sets around potato land. I'm gonna give the seedlings like another week or so, week and a half, and then we'll work on getting the rest of the sets planted here. And then honestly, anywhere around the farm where I think an onion could go. I love onions. I feel like I cook with an onion every single day. I can use a lot. Plus, they're just a great companion plant and really helpful for keeping pests at bay. Okay, though, let's go ahead and look at my next most favorite spring vegetable, radishes. Woo! It's been 2 weeks since I first planted my radishes. I planted 3 different varieties, and I use the cornstarch planting method the same way I do for my carrots. So far to date, we have absolutely gorgeous germination. Look at that lovely, lovely spacing. That is what the cornstarch really helps with. Now on this side, my third variety, the sparklers, they're doing nothing. You see a whole lot of nothing right here. And I'm not honestly too worried about it because I realize something important. You see these big old pine trees I got standing up behind me? Yeah, those are right next to the radish bin. And when I first started planting up this particular bin, I was definitely keeping an eye out for whether the sun was coming over the top of those pines or not. And it was almost all the way. As it turns out, for the last week or so, the sun has been falling over those first 2 varieties just lovely, but it's still just shading that last third variety just enough. So I have a feeling that sparkler variety is going to germinate next week, maybe the week after, but they're going to be just fine. That's a lesson for me for in the future, right? Don't plant on that edge until I make sure that the sun has really crested over the pine trees. Radishes are lovely because they don't need a lot of fertilizer. In fact, you cannot fertilize radishes at all and they're going to do just fine. And if you're making good choices with your soil in terms of what companions to plant together, when to add compost and other amendments, your soil's going to be just fine. Now there's a couple of areas in here that I'm going to want to maybe thin out. I got this little bitty cluster here that I want to maybe take 1 or 2 out of, but for the most part, these are all really looking lovely. Pickled radishes are my absolute favorite and I cannot wait. And that's the other benefit. Radishes grow like in 35 days. It's just bananas. It's amazing. So if you kind of screw up with the planting the first time, you've got time in the spring yet to plant a second. And then to plant more in the fall. Woo! Okay, let's go on to peas. Spring peas are another seasonal favorite. Who doesn't love spring peas? There's 3 types of peas that most people plant. Those are going to be the shell peas, which I like to plant. I like to eat the pea inside. I don't like to eat the shell. Then you have your sugar snap peas, which are kind of the hybrid in the middle. You might eat the shell, or you might eat the peas, or you might eat the whole thing, whatever. And then there's snow peas, where the pea itself is the edible pod, and maybe just little bitty bumpy seeds inside that pod. Peas do great if they have a little cold time in the ground, so I like to plant them end of March, beginning of April if I can. And this year I did so in my winter jugs. And if you've been around for a second, you know how those 2 jugs turned out, okay? I also wanted to try a new pea location, so let me show you what I tried. So this is over in potato land, and I have this trellis up between the garlic and potato land because I had winter squash growing there last fall, and that worked great. So I thought, let's leave the trellis up and let's see how peas do in this particular area. This area is definitely going to get a lot more sun than that bin does back there. So that could either be great or not so great. But it does mean that I could plant peas here earlier than I do in that other bin. The rest of my pea seeds I planted behind me. Let's see how they're doing. And would you look at that? We have got peas germinating already. One's up there. One's up there. We've got them. Can see a couple of green spots poking through. It's a miracle what happens when you actually remember to plant the seed. Yeah, so that's tip number 1. Don't forget to plant the seed. Now, as these peas start getting bigger, I do have small trellises that I can just push into the ground to make a couple of rows and give them some support. They need good, healthy soil. They need a trellis to climb up on, at least most varieties. You're going to want to try to protect them from pests because bunnies for sure, deer, they're going to want to get at those peas. And that's it. Yay peas! Since we're over here, before we head over to the carrots, I do just want to talk about my apple trees for a second. Oh my gosh, to see them blooming so fiercely so far is just making my heart really happy. They barely bloomed at all last year because we did a super heavy prune. They didn't attract orioles or anything. The year before that, they had put on a ton of blooms, but the fruits were all diseased from cedar rust, and they were all just super, super tiny because the trees themselves had been so overgrown. So now that the trees are properly pruned and we're seeing blooms, ooh, we just might get decent apples this year. Oh my gosh, all my fingers are crossed. It's all just so gorgeous. I can't. Whee! Real quick, I wanted to welcome 2 new members, at Leslie Jacobson and at Firefly Nanny, both 2 people that I happen to know and adore. They are lovely. Welcome, welcome. Super happy to have you. Now, if you want to be a member too, you certainly can. You just hit the little bitty join button. And members get a copy of my free garden planning spreadsheet. You get 2 posts per week that are just for members only. You get the cutest little custom emojis I've ever just... I respond to all your comments first, and you get a welcome just like this on my next video after joining. There you go. If you want to do it, great. You hit the button. If you don't want to do it, it's great too. I love you just the same. Okay, here is the bin where I put my first planting of carrots. I doubt that they're germinating yet, but let's find out together. No. We are not germinating. Oh, maybe. There's this, but that's not a carrot. I'm just going to pull that out. That's not a carrot either. I'm going to pull that out. Okay, so no carrots yet. So to plant my carrots, I'm still using the cornstarch method, which works really super great for me. If you want that detailed explanation, I'm putting a link to that video right up there. Those I planted just about a week ago. I take care to keep the soil in that bin really nice and loose. I like to amend it with soil from bins that my tomatoes grew in because they're 2 different types of plants and they will recycle each other's nutrients. I also add a little bit of sand in there, and I do my best not to till the ground too much. Because as root vegetables grow, they put those fingers into the soil, they make air pockets with their roots and their tuberous body. If you mess up the soil a lot, if you till it a lot, it's going to kind of break down those pockets and the soil will start to settle and get harder. Carrots love really light, loamy soil because that's what gives them the power to really get those roots down long and deep. Now, this is only my first round of planting. I will do a second round of planting of carrots back up in that bin after the peas and the carrots are done. And then those carrots will be the bigger batch of carrots that I will use more for fall and winter storage. I really love growing carrots. I really love all root vegetables. I really love a lot of vegetables. That's just... But carrots are like, ooh, I really like growing carrots. Since we had so much rain the last couple of days, and like this morning, we've had this like huge just burst of sunshine. On a whim, I just wanted to check and see if maybe now a few more carrots have germinated. And look what I found. That is a little baby carrot. That is a little baby carrot. There's another one. There's another one. And if you've never grown carrots before, that's what it looks like when it germinates. 2 longish horizontal leaves come out at the same time. If it doesn't look like that, it's not a carrot. Pull it out. Okay, on to brassicas. So the first cabbages I had ready to go were Tierra green cabbages. I absolutely love this cabbage. Easy to germinate, 6 to 7 inch heads, so on the smaller side, but that's honestly perfect for me because I'm one person. Super crunchy, light, delicate flavor. Easy germination, a winner all around. So they were ready to go first. I had about 6 really strong seedlings in the winter jug. I also planted some ruby cabbage at the same time. However, my little winter jug tipped over in the wind one day and I had to replant those. So those are growing, but they're just still not quite ready yet. So I've got my fabric pots. I've got 6 of them. Everybody's getting an amendment with compost and eggshell. I dig a little hole. I pop the seedling right in. We pat her down and we shake a little bit of more eggshell on the very top. Ooh, look at those gorgeous roots down there. Beautiful. When everybody's nestled into their big girl pots, I go ahead and I pull the bird netting over the top. The bird netting helps repel the cabbage moths. The eggshells helps repel slugs. I've got 3 beautiful broccoli seedlings in here. Let's go get them transplanted in some pots too. Now, I have grown many a cabbage in my day. I don't know why they're the easier of the brassicas. They just have been for me. If these cutie 3 little broccoli seedlings actually make it to the broccoli stage, I'm buying lottery tickets. We're gonna have a broccoli party. I remain realistic, but hopeful. Okay, let's get them in the ground. Trying to wiggle and jiggle it. There she goes. There she comes. And these will not be difficult to separate at all. So I honestly have no idea why broccoli and cauliflower in particular are like the hardest brassicas to get going. I do know that a lot of other growers can relate to that and have found broccoli to be really challenging as well. Quite frankly, in the past, I've never gotten them this big. I've gotten little starts to grow much, much smaller, but they always ended up like dying out. I don't know if it was too hot a weather, not the right condition, not the right soil. I honestly just don't know. But so far, the winter jug sowing is working well. And because the broccoli are just like the cabbages in that they're going to attract slugs, they're going to attract cabbage moths, I am keeping them right here with the cabbages, right close to the house, so that it is an easy, active reminder for me to check on them, to pull any little critters, any bugs off, make sure they're watered right, make sure nothing's rotting. So proximity for me, just having them physically closer to where I come in and out of the house every day, is going to make a big difference. Oh, Hilda says hi. Let's sprinkle some eggshells to help deter slugs. Water them in. And then I'm going to pull the netting, since I have so much, just pull the netting from the cabbage right on over to include the broccoli. These Brussels sprouts are the last of the brassicas that I need to get in some pots. Let's give them a flip. There we go. There we go. Obviously, they're super rain-soaked at the moment, but look at those gorgeous bottom roots. These are going to do amazing. So let's get these beautiful Brussels sprouts settled into their big girl pots. I'm putting all the brassicas right next to my back door so that it's the first thing I can see when I walk out in the morning with the doggos, the last thing I see before I go in at night. Either way, pests love to get their hands on brassicas, and so they are by my back door for a reason, partly because they get a lot of sun, but those big pine trees are going to shield them for when the sun really gets high in the sky and really starts burning hot in the afternoon. It's also lovely to have it so close because I can constantly keep my eyes on them. It is an automatic reminder for me to go, ooh, let's look for slugs today. Ooh, let's look for cabbage moths today. Ooh, let's look for whatever is chomping on our food today. As the brassicas continue to grow, I might need to move them around a little bit just to make more room in between them. In addition, this is zone 5. So like technically we may have just passed our last typical frost date, but we still could get a freeze even for another 2 weeks. Brassicas are going to be able to handle that. Peas will handle that. Onions will handle that. Garlic is going to be able to handle that. Carrots will handle that. Your tomatoes, your peppers, your squashes, not so much. So keep that in mind as you're planting in your area. Now that everybody's got their eggshells, now that everybody's got their bird netting cover to brassicas are off to do what they do. I am seriously, okay, so P.S. though, I love Brussels sprouts so much. I am seriously, like, I can't wait to make Brussels sprouts from my Brussels sprouts with like onion, a little butter, a little bacon, a little Parmesan cheese, roasted them up. Oh my goodness. It's woo! Loving vegetables you grew in your own ground is a great thing. And that's it for spring gardening. You're going to watch your frost dates. You're going to make sure you're not putting out anything into the garden that can't handle a frost yet if it comes by. You're going to make sure you're amending your soil with a little bit of compost. I happen to put an eggshell because I think it's great for every single plant, but there's a ton of other soil amendments that you could be using. So do what is available for you in your area. Keep an eye on planting anything that needs to be thinned, and watch out and protect for pests. Because those hungry bunnies, they're coming in, man. They're going to get you. And don't even get me started on the slugs. Slugs, I think, are absolutely gorgeous, but they need to leave my cabbages alone, okay? And get yourself in the habit of planting things where your eyeballs can easily go to them. Plant them in places you walk by every day. Plant them in places that you take your dogs to. The more that you keep your eyeballs on your plants, the better and healthier they're going to be. That's it for me, friends. I'm going to get my foggy glasses inside. I love you so much. Thanks for hanging out in the garden with me. And I'm going to talk to you real soon, okay? Bye.